That's why I'm a firm believer in things that are bad are keys to answers. And that's just because, like, a cheat code could ostensibly be a table of logs. A table of logs is like, you know what a table of contents is in books? Well, there was someone who had to write an entire book on logarithms. And so later they found out that there was an easier way of understanding logs, so all of their work was basically put aside as just like one index. The logs all got compiled, the whole book got compiled, and that's why a table of logs is somewhat preferable in thinking. And it's just as though an entire cheat code could be the table of logs. So I'm going a step further. We're saying the table of contents of logarithms could be simplified even further to just like something that you would see if you're playing a virtual reality video game. A cheat code is something way more easy than what it sounds like. Is just like if you see something glowing, you know that it has the contents of a luciferous enzyme, and that's what glowworms and fireflies have that makes it glow. And so just as that enzyme, a table of logs would be something as easy as seeing as the golden hour when the sun sets. It's something that's just really easy that you can see with the bare eye, and it's a constant because it happens not by chance. I'd like to be a clarification in the save point where another person isn't an object where you look at them as like a certain location that's a save point. It's just since you're putting a number into your app, it's subjectively, meaning that it's not by randomization. You shouldn't be entering random numbers into an application. That's what telemarketers do, and that's why telemarketers are just dumb canvassers. And what a canvas would ostensibly be like the AI characters that are just inside of a certain place in the game, and then they're just always doing a remote loop, such as when the canvassing occurs, they're just always saying the same thing because they have their goal that they're trying to achieve. And AI inside a video game, its goal that it's trying to achieve is just for you to appear in its configuration, where once you pass a certain point inside the video game, it's enacted. Cross a point so it can be enacted, as opposed to the save point. When you get to a certain location, then your progress is saved. And so that's why canvassing is like the opposite of adding in a phone number into your phone through an app. And one archetype in video games that are elaborate that I think would be fitting for virtual reality is that in games you get to pick your character and then you dress them up and choose certain attributes of how they look and their design. And so this is kind of what in hospitals or clinics would do. They'd match you up with your age group, and they'd match you up with your body fat and your size and everything, and you know, they'd write this down and give you a range of what should be happening for persons that fit your size. And in doing this, you can be able to, if you have like this ultimate virtual reality video game, have everyone enter in any problem that they would have, a pre-lying condition. One of them was Raynos, people with clammy hands all the time. I can't tell you how bad I feel because I used to have clammy hands, and my hands would get like little perforated indentures or just little craters in between my fingers, and that was I think because they were clammy a lot. Also, with around this time, I would get sweating underneath my armpits every time I would go to school because I would be that nervous. And just from the excitement, I think with the hormones blasting off. And then that stopped happening like in the middle of high school. Subjectively, I don't know why, but that would occur. And then I've had warts before on my finger, and then a wart is the opposite of those tiny little craters in between my fingers, because they would have the same texture as little craters, but they would be on a skin that was brown and coming out. And so this is kind of like what you would see in a body's design if it had all the cells. This would be the ultimate game in virtual reality, is have every cell in your body accounted for. And wouldn't it be something interesting you check on every day which ones new were made, because they can divide, and it's as though you've gained more. And so you could just check on that every day, and that would be like something better than watching CNN. And so you would be like really peculiar to check on the ones that if you had pre-lying conditions like from the past, and then see what in the future that might be surmounted as. And especially it's really interesting that chicken pox are like warts, but they're red. And so I know that because I got chicken pox, and that was like a whole bunch of red warts. And another thing are moles. Moles can be red as well. And so that would be like, I think, from red blood cells becoming fossilized. Like a fossil is made from an animal that gets mummified essentially, and is just then a rock. Ostensibly the cells that make up moles would be adhering to the same thing as they clump together as such. And so when back to like combining all the councils together, if you could get one council that was having all the best of all of them, but it would just be simplified to the maximum. So I guess the crossover of councils would have to be no different than the most simplest one, which would then be found more simpler ones would just be board games, because the most simplest one I can think of was like a Game Boy, and it had little red dots on it, and the red dots would move around, and that's like a board game in operation, where if you touched sides that were metal, his nose would light up and it was red. And that would be like the most simplest game console. So the more game board-esque you can inquire through combining the different consoles would be a solution for simplifying the crossover of each one into one single. I used to be so mad at people when they took painkillers, but because I thought that they could have toughed it out without them. But then in rap, I just hear all these rappers glorifying the different types of pharmaceutical benzos. You've got yourself, well, what else do they say? Skittles. The rapper, his entire name is the white Hispanic little boy. Oh, it's what they all fall off from. Little is what if a guy went around and got kicked out of gyms? Would either have a significant jail record or a flawless lawyer. go all out in every gym until he got kicked out, and he would just cycle through. I think it's so interesting how cycles can be thought up as tests and then how accurate they are. This web has an exuberant amount of distillates in it because a cobweb has more lines attached. Asthma would be viewing the hardest adult task that you do all day.